So, um, I'm Sophie Lise Fargue. Some of you know me. I think all of you know me, actually. Just in case, I'm going to tell you again, I'm from France. I'm a therapist. I'm an energy healer, and I work with neuroscience as well. And today is about limiting beliefs around food. So, I would advise you to either take notes or make screenshots. And at the end, we'll end with an exercise around beliefs, okay, based on neurosciences. All right, let's start. So yeah, I said limiting beliefs around food. What if it could be simpler? Because really, when I was thinking about it and writing it, I thought, my God, we spend so much of our life just thinking about food and obsessing over it and asking ourselves questions when we don't have really, we don't find the answers and we wonder, why does it have to be so difficult? And I think actually it could be simpler. So now we'll start with why it's difficult. First, the thing is, as children, we are taught what to eat, when to eat it, in what quantities. Most of the time, our parents are scared that we're not eating enough or that we're eating. Most of the time is that we're not eating enough, but in some cases, it's that we're eating too much. And what happens is that when you're a child between the age of 0 and 6 or 7, you don't have any perspective. Psychologically, you are not able to put things into question, especially if it comes from an adult that's important in your life. And so when your parents tell you you don't eat enough or eat for me, um, do it because I spend so much time doing this for you, or normally you like that, why aren't you eating it? Then you think you're not a good person for not eating it, or for not finishing your plate, that you should think about the little children in Africa. And so what happens, there are three things, is that physically you start not trusting your body. You learn not to trust your body and natural sense of satiety, which is extremely important because we all have that within ourselves. We all know when we're full. We all know when it's enough. But we've learned as children not to trust that. Mentally, you learn that others know better than you do what's good for you. And that's the second lie. Um, People can't tell you really what's good for you. They can give you advice based on their own experience. They can, provide with information, but they can't really tell you what's good for you. Emotionally, you start associating over or under eating with receiving more love, attention, and bringing others satisfaction. And that's, personally, I think that's the biggest problem, because then it entangles food with emotions, with a sense of self-value, self-worth that is not really good. So food becomes an element of trade, which comes into argument and even emotional blackmail. We've all seen it with children. Maybe we've been guilty of it as well because we were scared, because we're worried. But it's not too late to change that, at least for ourselves. And I think it's especially important because those beliefs become our truth and prevent us from having the best life experience we could have. Food is something we think about every day. We have meals every day. We love usually sharing food with others. It's a big element, it's a big social glue. And so if we're not enjoying it, we're missing out on a lot of what life has to offer. And that's why I thought this is so important to talk about this subject. So now we keep on going with the limiting beliefs in education and instruction. What you're told usually is that food has limited impact on your health, because when you get sick, your parents take you to a doctor, and the doctor tries to cure you with drugs. If you ask an MD, and I think Dr. Jane will probably tell us later, they don't study nutrition a lot. It is not usually part of the courses. It's not part of their classes. So they treat you with, what they've been taught can be used to treat you. It's not because they don't want to treat you with food. It's just that they don't know. And so you don't make that connection, but you make it in a very limited way. After that, you hear a lot that if you're overweight, you should diet, and that all you need in order to diet is self control and self discipline. Well, that's another big lie that we'll go more into. Third thing you hear a lot is eating makes you strong, especially eating meat and dairy. So you should just follow the guidelines, eat from the four major food groups, and you'll be fine. The four major food groups is something that was decided on long ago when there was far less studies on food than there is now. And it also is very convenient for the most powerful food lobbies. So is it something you should trust? I think it's something you should question and maybe, ask for yourself, read some books, get some resources, and then decide if you want to follow those guidelines or not. Um, the fourth one, this sugar and fat are treats and rewards, and they should be present and enjoyed on every special occasion. Now, this is a strong one as well. And as we'll see, sugar and fat are not usually really good for you. So even at school, that's what I'm trying to say here. Even at school or, in other places than your home, you don't get a lot of information as a child or a teenager about food. You don't really get the right information that could help you thrive, help you be healthier and enjoy food uh, for what it is. So let's go for a little reality check around those beliefs that I've just talked about. The diet industry is a scam. Why? Because the moment you start starving your body, what it's going to do is it's going to cling, literally cling to the fat cells, thinking that there's a famine out there. And so your body thinking, okay, if he can't give me food, I need to cling to the fat cell because in a couple weeks, I'll have less and less of those. And I need to cling to them to serve in order to survive until the moment we can get proper food again. So dieting is crazy, really. That's why I'm saying that diet industry is a scam designed to make you fail over and over again. The fitness industry is not very far behind because, as you can see on the social media, a lot of people on social media, I find it very interesting those days, are posting pictures of them when they look their best versus now that they're living a normal life and saying and admitting that they were suffering hell and back while looking their best. So the fitness industry is promoting a very athletic, app designed kind of look. Um, that's only attainable through a lot of sacrifice and usually early joint usure. So exercise is good for sure, moving is good, but to the point where you're hurting yourself, I don't think so. So really there's something to be said for finding the happy middle ground for yourself, one where you'll be healthy and fine, but not necessarily going the whole 9 yards and striving to look like the ideal image projected by society. Meat and dairies aren't your best sources of iron or protein if you consider the energy it takes the body to digest and process them. Sure, there's a lot of protein in meat, so I'm not saying ban it, unless you're vegetarian, but think that there are also other options like fish, eggs, um, lentils, all the vegetarian options you have as well. And, maybe try and mix different things um, and see how you feel. Just see how you feel. I always say the body knows best, so see how you feel. Do you feel as heavy or do you feel really good when you eat red meat? If you feel really good, fine. If you feel heavy, if you feel tired, then maybe other options are to be considered. Sugar and fat are overrated, but they've got very good marketers and they create strong addiction. Only the other day, my son was reminding me that sugar is 200 times more addictive, I think, than heroin. I mean, isn't that crazy? So of course, what you were saying, Maureen, when you get up in the middle of the night and you crave that granola bar, it's not your fault. Doesn't mean it can be cured and changed, but of course, your brain has been wired for years and years to crave that, and at night craves it, of course. Many commercial associate good time with sugar, fat, processed food, and so it creates a strong connection in our minds between sugar highs and positive emotions. That's the other thing. When there's such a strong connection, it's hard, to switch, and it takes time and knowledge. Sugar promotes inflammation, which is the first cause of most pathology. Now, that's something that's super, super, super important. Um, at some point in my life, I had to stop eating sugar because I had, what they call candida. That means I had too much of that fungus into my body. And so for 6 months, I ate no sugar. But I say no sugar, no potatoes, no rice, not anything that are more than a 35 glycemic index, which is really low. It was really hard, but I was in the best shape ever health wise. Interesting. I had the best skin. Um, I remember going to visit some friends and they had the flu. I didn't catch the flu. So that's interesting to note. Of course, you can't live like that all the time, but it's interesting to note. Countries where people eat less meat, less sugar, and less refined food have lower rates of cancer, cholesterol, diabetes, and a higher rate of healthy non-Nigerian and centenarians. That's interesting too, because of course we all want to live a long life. But what's the point if we're not healthy and we can't enjoy it? So of course, eating better, eating healthier at first, it sounds like a sacrifice. It sounds like, oh, I'm not going to be able to do what everybody else does. But you have to think long term. You really have to think of your long term objective, and and then change little by little, because food was meant to help you thrive. It's your fuel and your medicine first and foremost. And that's one thing we're never taught. Now I want to talk a little bit about the psychological issues around food, because that is a big part of the beliefs. So a lot of people will tell you, but food is my refuge. Or maybe they won't, put those words on it, but that's what you feel when you're talking with them, and that's what their lives demonstrates. It usually stems from anxiety, a need for protection, panic attacks, body image issues. So it's something that's deep. And when we tell those people, just get over it, it's impossible to just get over it. What I would advise is really to start working on your anxiety and identify what you eat, when, and why. So maybe have a journal around food and write down those things, every day for a while, not your whole life, of course, but for a couple days, maybe even a week. You could also work around the subject of safety and assertiveness, because if you need to protect yourself, usually it's because you know that you're not assertive enough, that you can't say no to people, you can put the right boundaries. And start learning about new, healthier recipes so you can keep on enjoying food while doing good by your body. Because if food is your refuge, it means also that you love food. So it's not about, um, keeping food out of your life or keeping joy from food out of your life. It's about finding new ways to bring joy and food in your life in a healthy way. The second biggest psychological issue is people who are going to tell you food is my enemy. And this stems from control issues, lack of self-love, body image issue, and food as the only factor in the way I look, which it is not. But here I really need to start trusting my body, listen to its needs for sure, look at it with more kindness and gratitude, which is something we usually don't do. See food as part of your life, a part that cannot be avoided and can become a friend, actually. Get your fact right about body chemistry. It will help you feel more in control, but should not be your primary concern. Your primary concern in those two cases, whether food is your refuge or food is your enemy, is to love yourself more and work around the issues that are right behind those beliefs. So, now, how do we change a belief? Changing a belief is a process. It takes awareness, it takes courage, whatever the issue. But when it's about food, it's difficult because we all like to belong, and that food is a social glue. So we think that if we change the way we eat, people are not going to like us all the same. We can't participate in meals like we used to. It makes our life more difficult. And it's not untrue. It does make your life a bit more difficult, especially in the beginning. But once more, look at the bigger picture. What matters is how you eat most of the time. If from time to time you have a meal with your friends and where you don't respect or all that's good for you, that's okay. Your body's not going to scream, and you're not going to get sick because you just had a meal like that once a week or twice a month, whatever. But it's about what you do most of the time. So you will still belong to your family, to your social groups, but you can also bring changes to those groups because they'll see you thriving and being healthier. It might inspire them. A lot of emotions are attached to food, and letting go of our reassuring patterns and habits is not easy at first. So pat yourself on the back just for doing what you're doing right now in those challenges you're taking on, because sure, it's not easy. Your brain wants you to be reassured and feel safe all the time. So if for you, eating the granola bar or the Snickers bar or whatever, the ice cream is something that makes you feel good, it's hard to let go of that. But the sooner we start creating new, joyful, tasty ritual alone and with others, the better. Because then you'll realize, yes, you can still have the banana bread. Maybe you'll cook it a little differently. Yes, you can still have the ice cream. Maybe it will be with, coconut milk or rice milk or less sugar, but you can still have it. It's just you have to have it differently. And so the journey will require inner strength, persistence, but it can be fun and creative. So I would really advise you to buy new cookbooks, maybe take some classes, read some books. Doing that challenge is something that's going to help you incredibly because you're together in it. So that's a huge, huge plus. Oh, I put a picture of a book. It's kind of a plant-based oriented, but you can get a lot of information in it. So even if you're not a vegetarian or a vegan person, can be interesting. So what you need to do to educate yourself around that subject, you will need to make the connection between food and health, but really, really make it. And it's a connection that, like I told you, not a lot of people do, like really consciously. Then health and quality of life. And that's something most of us will say, yeah, that's true. But most of the time we don't think about it. We take it for granted that we're going to be healthy and that we're just going to have little problems from time to time and we can juggle them with a pill or two. But the moment you lose your health or have, a big disease, a big problem, then you know what it really means. And you wish you had been more careful with what you eat. And it's something that, of course, it takes time and researches, but it can make such a huge difference in your life. So you will need to reconnect with your body's natural rhythm and needs. Keep the journal around food. Like I told you, it can be interesting in the first couple weeks to see when you crave what. And you could also put in that journal what you've been doing that day. Realize that the days that you're exercising, having a lot of activity, eating more, isn't, could be a good plan. The days when you're just working from home, sitting on your couch, maybe eating less or different kind of food. So realize that not every day is going to be the same, and it's fine. Talking to people who have healed and changed their life by changing their diet is a must as well. And I think that here Darian can really, really help you because She can provide with a different perspective and one that's based on reality, not, imagination. And then, there are the very good advice that a person like that can provide you with. You will also need to find out for yourself what's good for you in terms of habits, food types, meal size. So right now you're learning about food, about what you can do with it, but little by little you will have to adapt it to your own personal needs. Keeping in mind, like I told you before, what you eat 90% of the time is what matters. Rest of the time, yes, you can indulge and have a meal with your friend, whatever. And it's good, it's good to be carefree as well, not to be too much in control, or you can go back to the control issues, which we do not want. So it's about also repairing your relationship to food. And for that, you need to go back to basics to be able to identify what you eat. When you take up something in a supermarket, you start reading the labels, and there are 20 things there you don't even understand what it means. Usually, it's not that good for you. It means it's laced with chemicals, additive, preservatives. I'm not sure you want to put that into your body. So it's really about thinking about those things. Do I want to put that into my body, into my precious body, that helps me enjoy life every day? It means developing a loving relationship to what you're going to ingest by preparing it with love. So take time, make time during your day to, prep your meals, prep for your week. If you have a very busy day, you could do that on a Sunday. Take time for that. Really, really important so you know what you're eating. It means learning new recipes and acquiring new tastes. At first, it's a bit weird, but then you realize when you eat less sugar, you lose a taste for it. It's really interesting. It's been a while now that I eat less sugar than before because I never went back to as much sugar that I used to be addicted to sugar, but I never went back to my addiction the way that it was. And now when I eat something that's very sugary, I don't like it. It feels too much. So your taste will change. And actually, when you eat less sugar, less fat, less processed food, um, things tend to get more savory. So that's interesting too. When you have just, a raw fruit, you really taste the fruit. You really taste the vegetable. You need less things on it. It also means loving yourself and your body as part of the process. Really, really important. It means accepting that you're not going mainstream, but doing something really good for yourself, your family, and the planet. So every person who changes their diet, who changes their relationship with food, are really doing something important. It's a big mindset change, so it takes time. Um, it's normal. Don't berate yourself from falling off the wagon from time to time. It's fine. Just remind yourself why you're on it and why you're doing that. And I wanted to do a little exercise with you today. So some of you may have done it before, but it's a super powerful one. I love it a lot. So I'm asking you to identify your most negative belief around food and write it down. And when I've written it down, you will now write 4 sentences about that belief. Keep them short if you can and start them with I as much as possible. I'll let you write those sentences. Okay. Tell me when you're down just by raising your hand. You guys done?
They're messaging in that they're good, Soph.
Okay, good. So what you do now is you reread the sentences consciously. And you see when you're done what emotion comes up. How you feel. All right. And when you've identified that emotion, you breathe it in and you breathe it out. You let it go. Really good. And now you write 3 sentences on that same belief you have around food. You'll see the sentences that come to you will probably be different. That's okay. And that's actually good. So you write 3 sentences on the same subject. All right. Tell me when you're done. Okay. All right. So you do the same. You reread your sentences. You see what emotion comes up. You breathe in that emotion and you breathe it out. Do the same now with 2 sentences. Same process every time. When you're done, you reread the sentences. You see what emotion comes up. Breathe in that emotion and breathe it out. Let it all go. Good. Then 1 sentence. Do the same. Read the sentence. See what emotion comes up. Breathe it in. Breathe it out. And now, just 1 word on the subject. Same process. See what comes up. Breathe it in and breathe it out. And now, when you go back to that belief you had, how do you feel? Do you feel the same? Do you feel different? What has changed?